Ambassador Keth Sora stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Concord, his forearms folded tight against his chest. Around him, representatives from 7 different species whispered in fear. The massive screens above them showed nothing but static where the Veluran homeworld should have been. 3 days ago, Velura had been a shining jewel in the galaxy. The Velurans were beautiful creatures. They glowed with soft light that came from inside their bodies. They talked to each other by changing colors and flashing patterns. Their cities were made of crystal that caught their light and spread it across the night sky. Poets called Velura the planet of living stars. Now there was only silence. "We have sent 47 ships," said High Coordinator Mulvex, his massive form floating in a special tank of pressurized gas. He was a Mulvani, a creature that lived in the clouds of gas giant planets. His voice came through speakers around the tank. "None have returned. None have sent messages. They simply stop." Keth Sora clicked his mandibles together. This was the sound his species made when they were nervous. The Keth were insectoid beings, with hard shells and multiple limbs. They were known for being calm and logical, but even Keth Sora felt fear crawling up his spine. "What about the orbital stations?" asked Representative Yola of the Fenari. She was small and covered in soft fur, with large eyes that saw in many spectrums. Her species were traders and travelers. "Surely someone survived." "Gone," Mulvex answered. "All gone. 12 billion Velurans. 200,000 visitors from other worlds. The entire system is dark." The hall fell silent. 12 billion lives ended without warning, without explanation, without even a cry for help. Keth Sora had lived for 200 standard years. He had seen wars and plagues and natural disasters, but he had never seen anything like this. Whatever had taken Velura had done so completely, perfectly, as if the entire civilization had simply been erased. "We must consider all possibilities," he said, stepping forward. His voice was calm, but his hearts beat fast inside his chest. Keth had 3 hearts. Right now, all of them were racing. Natural disaster, internal conflict, unknown disease. "You know this was none of those things," said a voice from the shadows. Everyone turned. The speaker was Elder Voss, the oldest member of the council. He was a Tethrani, a species that resembled tall, thin trees. His bark-like skin was gray with age. His eyes, set deep in his wooden face, held memories of things the younger species had forgotten. "I was young when we first found the humans," Voss said slowly. "I remember the fear. I remember the debates. A species from a Class 7 Deathworld. Creatures that evolved on a planet that seemed designed to kill them. Poison in their air. Deadly radiation from their sun. Predators everywhere. And somehow they not only survived, but thrived." "What do humans have to do with Velura?" Eula asked. Voss turned his ancient eyes toward her. "Nothing. Yet. But I remember something else from those old times. Stories that came before the humans. Legends of things that moved between galaxies. Things that fed on light and life. We thought they were myths. We hoped they were myths." The hall grew colder, or perhaps it just felt that way. "The harvesters," Keth Sora whispered. He had read about them in old texts, stories from species that no longer existed, warnings written on dead worlds. "If the legends are true," Voss continued, "then we are all in danger. Our communication networks span the galaxy. Our beacon stations light up the void. We have been shouting into the darkness for 10,000 years. And now perhaps something has hurt us." Mulvex made a sound like thunder. "Then we must prepare defenses, build weapons, create a fleet." "We have no weapons," Keth Sora said bitterly. "The Concord banned military development 3,000 years ago. We believed peace was the answer to everything. Our ships carry scientists and diplomats, not soldiers." "Then we will die as we lived," Eula said quietly. "Peacefully, helplessly." Silence again. The weight of it pressed down on everyone in the hall. Then Keth Sora spoke the words he had been dreading, the words that would change everything. "There is another option," he said. "The humans." The reaction was immediate. Shouts of protest, sounds of fear. Even Elder Voss seemed to shrink back. "They are quarantined for good reason," Mulvex rumbled. "They are violent, unpredictable. They solve every problem with force. They are survivors, Kethsora replied. They come from a world that tried to kill them every day. And they won. Perhaps that is what we need now? You would unleash monsters to fight monsters? Eula asked. Kethsora looked at the static on the screens. He thought about 12 billion Valurans who would never flash their lights again. He thought about his own homeworld, his own people, his own children. I would do anything, Ymir, he said, to end this silence. The vote was close, so close that it came down to a single voice. But in the end, fear won over caution. A message was prepared. Coordinates were calculated. And for the first time in 200 years, the Galactic Concord sent a transmission toward the small blue planet called Earth. They prayed the humans would not come, but they prayed even harder that they would. Admiral Elena Vasquez stood at the window of Geneva Command Center and watched the sun set over the mountains. The sky turned orange and red, colors that reminded her of fire. Behind her, the communication screens filled with data from across the solar system. Humanity had been busy for 200 years. The message from the Galactic Concord arrived at 1847 hours. Vasquez read it 3 times before she believed it was real. They want our help, she said quietly. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly. After everything they did to us, they actually want our help. Lieutenant Commander Jin Okonkwo stood beside her. He was tall and dark-skinned, with kind eyes and gentle hands. He had spent his entire life studying alien species from a distance. The quarantine meant he could never meet them in person. He had never touched an alien artifact, never heard an alien voice except through recordings. 12 billion dead, Jin said, reading the message on his tablet. An entire species gone, and they have no idea what did it. Vasquez turned away from the window. She was 53 years old, with gray hair cut short and scars on her face from battles fought long ago. She had joined the military when she was 18, back when humanity was still trying to break through the quarantine zone. She remembered the ships that never came back, the friends she lost to alien weapons that struck without warning. They called us monsters, she said. They built an invisible wall around our solar system and told us to stay inside. They said we were too dangerous for civilized space. That was 200 years ago, Jin replied. Maybe things have changed. Things have changed. Captain Yuki Tanaka walked into the room. She was small but carried herself like someone much larger. Her grandmother had died aboard the Yamato, one of the first ships to try breaking through the quarantine. Yuki had grown up with that story. It shaped everything she became. We have changed. We built a fleet they never expected. We developed technology they said was impossible. We refused to die quietly in our little corner of space. Vasquez nodded slowly. She walked to the main console and pressed a button. Across the solar system, 12 warships began powering up their engines. The 7th Expeditionary Fleet. Humanity's answer to being told they were not wanted. The ships had names that meant something. The Endurance, the Defiance, the Last Hope. Each one was built in secret, hidden from the alien satellites that watched Earth. Each one carried weapons that had never been tested in real combat, and each one was crewed by humans who had trained their entire lives for a moment that might never come, until now. Sergeant Major Morrison, Vasquez spoke into the communication system. Report to the command deck. A few minutes later, the door opened and a large man walked in. Derek Ghost Morrison was the kind of soldier that other soldiers told stories about. He was missing 2 fingers on his left hand and had a scar that ran from his forehead to his chin. His eyes were the color of winter ice. Admiral, he said simply. We have a mission, Vasquez told him. The aliens who locked us away for 2 centuries are asking for help. Something is killing them, and they have no way to fight back. Ghost looked at the message on the screens. He read it slowly, his lips moving slightly. Then he laughed. It was not a happy sound. They spent all that time making sure we could not reach them, he said. Now they need us to save them. That is either very funny or very sad. Maybe both, Jin said quietly. Vasquez looked at her officers. These were the people she trusted most in the universe. They had trained together, bled together, and waited together for a chance to prove that humanity deserved a place among the stars. I will not lie to you, she said. This could be a trap. The Concord has never been our friend. They might be trying to destroy us using some unknown threat. But you do not think so, Yuki said. It was not a question. No, I think they are scared, really, truly scared. Whatever killed those aliens is something they have never seen before. And they remembered that we are the species that fights when there is no hope. The species that refuses to accept death. Ghost cracked his knuckles. The sound echoed in the quiet room. So we go out there. We find out what killed 12 billion aliens. And then we kill it back. Basically, yes. Jin stepped forward. His eyes were bright with something that might have been excitement or fear. This is first contact, Admiral. Real first contact. We will meet alien species face to face. We will see their worlds, their cultures, their technology. Everything we have dreamed about for centuries. And everything we have feared, Vasquez added. Remember, Jin, they did not put us in quarantine because they liked us. They did it because they were afraid of what we might do. We need to show them that we can be more than weapons. But first, we need to be exactly what they fear. She turned to the communication console and opened a channel to all 12 ships of the fleet. This is Admiral Vasquez. You have all read the message from the Galactic Concord. You know what they are asking. They need our help. They need the people they call monsters, the species they locked away and hoped would disappear. She paused, looking at the faces of her crew through the video screens. They called us when they were desperate. So let us show them what desperation looks like when it fights back. Let us show them what a death world really produces. Across the fleet, engines roared to life. Navigation systems locked onto coordinates far beyond anything humanity had ever reached. And in the hearts of every human aboard, something ancient woke up. The survival instinct of a species that had fought against everything their planet could throw at them and won. Fleet status, Vasquez asked. All ships ready, Admiral, came the reply. Vasquez allowed herself a small smile. Then let us go meet our neighbors. And whatever is hunting them. The fleet jumped into faster-than-light travel. The stars blurred into lines, and humanity left its prison for the first time in 200 years. The galaxy was about to remember why it had been so afraid. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Valoran system. What they found made even the hardest soldiers fall silent. Valora had been beautiful once. The records showed cities that sparkled like diamonds under starlight. Oceans that glowed with the light of billions of living creatures. A civilization that had existed for 50,000 years. Now there was only death. Admiral Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Endurance, her flagship. Through the main window she could see Valora, hanging in space like a burned-out star. The cities were dark. The oceans were black. Nothing moved on the surface. Life signs, she asked quietly. None, Admiral, came the reply. 12 billion Valorans, all dead. Jin Okonkwo was already suited up for planetary exploration. His hands trembled as he checked his equipment. He had waited his entire life to visit an alien world. He never imagined it would be like this. I need to go down there, he said. We need to understand what happened. Vasquez nodded. Take a full team. Ghost, you are with him. Keep our scientist alive. Ghost Morrison checked his rifle. It was a simple weapon, designed to fire metal projectiles at high speed. No fancy energy beams or plasma bursts, just good old human engineering. Yes, Admiral. Ambassador Keth Sora had joined the human fleet at the border of Concord space. He stood at the back of the bridge now, his insectoid body trembling. He had known the Valorans. He had friends among them, family almost, in the way that different species could become family after thousands of years of contact. I should go as well, he said. I knew this world. I can help identify what we find. Vasquez studied him for a moment. The alien looked fragile compared to her soldiers. His shell was thin, his limbs delicate. But there was something in his compound eyes that she recognized. Determination. The need to know the truth, no matter how terrible. Suit up, she said. The landing craft touched down in what had been the capital city. Jin was the first one out, his boots crunching on ground covered with ash and dust. He swept his scanner across the landscape and felt his heart break. Bodies. Thousands of bodies. The Valorans lay where they had fallen, their forms dried and empty like leaves in autumn. Their inner light was completely gone, not dimmed or faded. Gone, as if something had reached inside them and stolen it. They were not killed, Jin said slowly, examining the nearest body. They were drained. Something took their energy, their life force, everything that made them alive. Keth Sora knelt beside another body. This Valuran had been young, perhaps a child by their standards. Its small hands were still reaching toward the sky, frozen in the moment of death. The legends speak of this, the ambassador whispered. The harvesters, machines from beyond the galaxy. They travel through the void looking for civilizations that shine with light and life. And when they find them, they feed, Ghost finished. He was scanning the area with his rifle raised, his eyes constantly moving. The soldier in him knew they were not alone. Something was watching. He could feel it. Jin moved deeper into the city. His scanner picked up strange readings. Not organic, not quite mechanical. Something in between. He followed the signal to a massive tower in the center of the capital. The tower had been some kind of communication hub. Giant antennas pointed toward the sky, designed to send messages across the stars. Now those antennas were twisted and broken, and at the base of the tower, Jin found something that made him stop breathing. A machine. It was black and angular, like a piece of broken glass given form. It stood perfectly still, its surface absorbing all light. No reflection, no shine, just darkness in physical form. "Do not move," Ghost said quietly, appearing at Jin's shoulder. "I do not think it sees us." Jin checked his scanner. The machine was not completely dead. Some kind of dormant program was still running inside it, and it was connected to something vast, a network that stretched beyond the planet, beyond the system, into the endless void of space. This is a scout, Jin realized. A single unit left behind to watch. The main force has already moved on. Moved on to where? Keth Sora asked, joining them. Jin's face went pale as he studied the data. 3 targets, all Concord homeworlds. He looked at the ambassador with horror in his eyes. "Including yours." Keth Sora's mandibles clicked rapidly. "How long?" 11 days, maybe less." Ghost moved toward the machine, his rifle trained on its dark form. "Can we learn anything else from this thing? Weaknesses? How to kill them?" "We need to capture it," Jin said. "Take it apart. Understand how it works. Then do it fast." Ghost never took his eyes off the machine. "Because I think it just woke up." The dark surface of the Harvester Scout began to ripple. Light gathered at its center. A weapon charging. Ghost did not hesitate. He fired 3 rounds into the machine's core. The shots hit with perfect accuracy, punching through the dark material. The Harvester made a sound like screaming glass and fell. But before it died, it sent a signal. A single pulse of data racing through the void toward its masters. The Harvesters knew they were coming. Back on the Endurance, Admiral Vasquez listened to the report with a stone face. 11 days, 3 planets, trillions of lives hanging in the balance. "Can we fight them?" she asked. Jin's response came through the communication system. "The Harvesters hunt by detecting energy signatures, light, heat, communications. The more a civilization shines, the easier they are to find." "Then we stop shining," Vasquez said. "We go dark. We become predators instead of prey." Keth Sora's voice trembled over the channel. "Your ships will be blind. Your crews will be in darkness. How can you fight like that?" Vasquez smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Ambassador, humans evolved on a world where things hunted us in the dark. We learned to hunt them back. Darkness is not our enemy." She turned to her crew. "Signal the fleet. Operation Blackout begins now. No active sensors. No communications. Minimum power. We are going hunting." The lights on the Endurance began to dim. Across the fleet, humans prepared for something they understood in their bones. The ancient game of predator and prey. But this time, humans would not be the ones being hunted. The darkness inside the Endurance was complete. No lights, no screens, no humming machines, only silence and shadow. Ambassador Keth Sora pressed himself against the cold wall of the ship and tried not to panic. His compound eyes were designed for bright spaces. In this blackness, he could see nothing. His heart raced. His breathing came fast and sharp. Every instinct screamed at him to find light, to escape this terrible void. Then a hand touched his shoulder. Warm, steady, human. "Easy, Ambassador," Jin's voice came through the darkness. "We are here. You are safe." "How can you see anything?" Kethsora whispered. "How can you function like this?" "Practice," Jin said. There was a smile in his voice. "And millions of years of evolution. Our ancestors survived by hunting at night, by hiding in caves, by moving through darkness while predators search for them. This is in our blood." Around them, the human crew moved with quiet confidence. They did not bump into walls. They did not trip over equipment. They navigated by touch and memory, by sounds and smells that Kethsora could not even detect. Admiral Vasquez's voice came over the internal speakers, barely louder than a whisper. "All ships report ready. Operation Blackout is active. From this moment, we do not exist." The fleet moved through space like ghosts. 12 ships with engines running cold, drifting on calculated trajectories. No radio signals, no scanner beams. Nothing that the harvesters could detect. 3 days passed in darkness. On the 4th day, they found the enemy. The harvester swarm appeared on passive sensors as a cloud of darkness. Thousands of machines, each one a piece of angular black metal, moving together like a school of deadly fish. They were heading toward Fenari Prime, the homeworld of the small furry traders. "Contact," Vasquez said softly. "All ships, maintain darkness. Load kinetic weapons. We fire on my mark." Kethsora watched through a viewport as the human ships positioned themselves. The harvesters had no idea they were there. The machines were designed to hunt civilizations that announced themselves with light and noise. They had never encountered prey that hunted back. "Fire!" The human ships released their weapons. Not energy beams or missiles with tracking systems. Simple metal rods, accelerated to incredible speeds by magnetic rails. No heat signature, no energy trail, just cold metal screaming through the void. The first volley hit the harvester swarm like a fist. Dozens of machines shattered instantly. The dark shapes spun apart, broken and dead. But there were thousands more. The harvesters reacted. They scattered, then reformed. They searched for the source of the attack, their sensors sweeping the darkness. Finding nothing. "Fire again," Vasquez ordered. Another volley, more machines destroyed. The harvesters began to move faster, trying to escape the invisible death. But the human ships tracked them, predicted their movements, fired again and again. Then the machines learned. One harvester detected the slight heat bloom of a kinetic round being launched. It traced the trajectory backward, found the human ship. The Defiance exploded in a flash of white light. "We lost the Defiance," someone reported. "No survivors." Vasquez's face showed no emotion. "Continue firing. Draw them away from Fenari Prime." The battle became a deadly game. The humans struck from darkness. The harvesters adapted and struck back. 3 more human ships died. Then 5. The survivors kept fighting, kept drawing the swarm away from the inhabited world. Ghost Morrison commanded the ground assault teams on the last hope. When a harvester attached itself to the hull, trying to drain the ship's power, Ghost led his soldiers outside in zero gravity. They fought the machine with cutting tools and explosives, tearing it apart piece by piece while their suit's oxygen ran low. "Got it," Ghost reported, floating back toward the airlock. His suit was damaged. His air was almost gone. Pulled out its core processor before it died. "Jin, you need to see this." Jin analyzed the processor in the ship's darkened laboratory. What he found changed everything. "The harvesters have a central intelligence," he said over the encrypted communication channel. "All these machines are connected to it. They share data instantly. That is how they learn so fast. But it also means they have a weakness." "Explain," Vasquez said. "Their feeding mechanism works both ways. They absorb energy through their connection network. If we could send corrupted energy back through that network," Jin paused, "we could poison them. All of them, at once." "How do we make corrupted energy?" Jin looked at his data. "We need to overload their absorption system. Give them something they cannot digest. Something that burns instead of feeds." "Our ships," Vasquez understood. "We turn our ships into weapons, into poison." "It would destroy the ships, and probably the crews." Silence on the channel. Then Ghost's voice, rough and tired. I will do it. Morrison, no. We need you. Admiral, I have been a soldier my whole life. I have been waiting for a fight that matters. This is it. Ghost coughed. Keth Sora could hear the pain in the sound. Besides, I think that Harvester got me worse than I said. My suit took too much damage out there. I am not making it back anyway. More silence. Then Vasquez spoke, her voice thick with something that might have been pride or grief. What do you need? A ship, volunteers, and whatever power cores Jin can rig to explode in the right frequency. The preparations took 2 days. 2 days while the remaining human ships played deadly hide-and-seek with the Harvester swarm. 2 more ships were lost. The survivors were exhausted, their ammunition running low. Ghost Morrison took command of a damaged vessel called the Burning Star. 12 volunteers joined him. They modified the ship's power core according to Jin's specifications. They aimed themselves at the heart of the Harvester swarm. Admiral, Ghost said over the final communication, tell them back home what we did. Tell them the monsters from the Deathworld went down fighting. I will, Vasquez promised. Godspeed, soldier. The Burning Star lit up like a new sun. It blazed through the darkness, drawing every harvester toward it. The machines swarmed around it, ready to feed. They did not know they were consuming poison. Ghost Morrison pressed the final button. The ship's modified core released everything at once. Energy that twisted and burned through the harvester network. Across the swarm, machines began to die. Sparks flew from their dark shells. Their connections to each other carried the poison deeper. But it was not enough. Not all of them died. The surviving harvesters retreated, damaged and confused. They had never tasted anything like this before. They needed to report to their masters, to warn them about these strange new prey that fought from darkness. On the Endurance, Vasquez watched them flee. She had 4 ships left. Half her crew was dead or wounded, and the harvesters were still out there, still heading toward conquered worlds. It worked, Jin said quietly. The poison worked, but we need more. We need to hit them harder. Vasquez nodded slowly. Then we hit them harder. One more battle. Everything we have left. She looked at Keith Sora. The ambassador had not slept in days. His shell was dull, his movements slow, but his eyes still burned with determination. Your people are the next target, she told him. Keth Prime. Can you get us there? Yes, Keth Sora said, and I will fight beside you when we arrive. Vasquez almost smiled. Maybe there is hope for your species after all. The 4 remaining ships turned toward Keth Prime. The final battle was coming, and humanity would face it the only way they knew how, by refusing to give up. The Harvester swarm had arrived 3 hours before the human fleet. Thousands of the dark machines descended on the planet like a plague of shadows. The Keth had no weapons to fight them. They could only run, hide, and pray. 1 trillion souls lived on Keth Prime. The evacuations saved perhaps 1 million. Admiral Vasquez watched the destruction from the bridge of the Endurance. Her 4 remaining ships hung at the edge of the system, waiting. The crew was exhausted. The ammunition was almost gone. Half the survivors were wounded. It should have been hopeless. But Elena Vasquez had stopped believing in hopeless a long time ago. Jin, she said calmly, is the weapon ready? Yes, Admiral. Jin Okonkwo stood at the science station, his face lit by the glow of his tablet. He had not slept in 4 days. His hands shook from exhaustion, but his mind was clear. I have analyzed the data from Ghost's sacrifice. The poison worked, but the delivery was too weak. We hit them at the edges of their network. This time, we need to hit them at the center. How do we do that? We make them come to us. All of them. We make ourselves the brightest target in the galaxy, and when they try to feed, we give them more than they can handle. Ambassador Keth Sora stepped forward. Below them, his homeworld was dying. He could hear the screams of his people in his mind, even though no sound could travel through space. His whole body trembled with grief and rage. What do you need? He asked. Vasquez looked at him with something like respect. Everything. Every beacon, every transmitter, every light source on your remaining stations. We are going to shine so bright that every harvester in the system will come running. That is suicide. That is the plan. Captain Yuki Tanaka stood at the weapons console. Her grandmother had died trying to break through the alien quarantine. Now Yuki would die trying to save the aliens who had built that quarantine. The irony was not lost on her. "All ships report ready, Admiral," she said. "We have loaded the modified power cores. When we overload them, the feedback will travel through any harvester that tries to feed on us." "Good." Vasquez opened a channel to the entire fleet. Her voice was steady, almost gentle. "This is it. The last battle. I will not lie to you. Many of us will not survive this day. Maybe none of us will." She paused, looking at the faces of her crew. Humans from every continent of Earth. Scientists and soldiers, young and old. All of them far from home, far from everyone they loved. "But I want you to remember something. 200 years ago, the galaxy looked at humanity and saw monsters. They locked us away because they were afraid of what we might do. Today we show them what we really are. We are not monsters. We are not weapons. We are the species that fights when there is no hope. We are the ones who stand between the darkness and the light." She straightened her uniform. "Light up every beacon. Maximum power. Let them see us." The 4 human ships blazed to life. Every light turned on. Every transmitter screamed into the void. Every sensor beam swept across the system. After days of darkness, the human fleet became a small sun. The harvesters noticed immediately. They stopped their attack on Keth Prime. Thousands of dark shapes turned toward the new signal. Fresh prey, strong energy. The machines began moving toward the human fleet like sharks toward blood. "They are coming," Yuki reported. "All of them. The entire swarm." "Hold position," Vasquez ordered. "Let them get close." The wait was terrible. The harvesters grew larger in the viewports, their angular forms blocking out the stars. The crews watched their deaths approach and did not flinch. Keth Sora found himself standing beside Jin. The human scientist was typing frantically on his tablet, making final adjustments to the weapon. "I never thought I would die beside a human," Keth Sora said quietly. Jin looked up and smiled. "We are not dead yet, Ambassador. And even if we are soon, at least we are dying together. That means something." "Does it?" "It means neither of us is alone." The first harvesters reached the fleet. They attached themselves to the ship hulls, their feeding mechanisms activating. They began to drain power, just as they had drained the Valurans, just as they had drained 1,000 civilizations before. "Now," Vasquez said. Every ship activated their modified cores at the same moment. But instead of simply exploding, the cores released a carefully designed pattern of energy, a poison that traveled backward through the harvester feeding mechanism, into their bodies, through their network connection, to every machine in the swarm. The effect was instantaneous. Harvesters began to scream, metal twisted and broke. Dark shells cracked open, spilling strange fluid into space. The poison raced through their shared network like fire through dry wood, destroying everything it touched. One by one, the machines died. Hundreds, thousands. Their bodies floated in space, empty and broken. But the price was terrible. The Endurance lost half its hull in the feedback explosion. The last hope broke apart completely. The remaining 2 ships were crippled, drifting without power. Vasquez pulled herself up from the floor of the bridge. Blood ran from a cut on her forehead. Around her, crew members lay dead or injured. Sparks flew from damaged consoles. "Report," she coughed. "Harvesters. Destroyed." Jin's voice came from somewhere nearby. "All of them. The swarm is dead." Vasquez closed her eyes. They had won. At a cost that would haunt her forever, they had won. On Keth Prime, the survivors emerged from their hiding places. They looked up at the sky and saw the debris of battle, the broken human ships, the destroyed harvester swarm. They did not fully understand what had happened, but they knew someone had saved them. 3 days later, Admiral Vasquez stood before the Galactic Concord Council. She was the only command officer who had survived. Yuki Tanaka was dead. Ghost Morrison was dead. Half the crew of the fleet was dead. But the mission was complete. The council chamber was silent as she spoke. 12 ships, 347 crew members. That is what we brought. 4 ships remain. 112 people survived. She paused, letting the numbers sink in. We did not come here to prove anything. We did not come here looking for gratitude. We came because something was hunting in the dark, and we are the species that hunts back. Elder Voss, the ancient Tethrani, stepped forward. His bark-like skin was wet with something that might have been tears. We were wrong about your kind, he said. We looked at your death world and saw only violence. We did not see the courage, the sacrifice, the willingness to die for strangers who had treated you as monsters. Vasquez shook her head. We are what our world made us. Survivors, fighters, protectors. She looked at each alien representative in turn. You can keep your quarantine if you want. We will go home. But know this, the next time something comes hunting in the dark, we will be there. Not because you asked, because the silence is ours to break. She turned and walked out of the chamber. Jin Okonkwo followed her, along with the few survivors of the fleet. Behind them, the council watched in silence. Ambassador Keth Sora caught up with Vasquez at the door. Admiral, he said, thank you for everything. Vasquez looked at him for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She smiled. Take care of your people, Ambassador. And remember what you learned today. What did I learn? That monsters are not always what they seem. And sometimes the scariest thing in the galaxy is a species that refuses to give up. The human survivors boarded their damaged ships. The journey home would take months. Many would not survive the trip. But they went with their heads high and their hearts proud. They had come from a death world. They had faced the darkness and won. And the galaxy would never forget what they had done. Far away in the cold void between galaxies, something ancient stirred. The harvesters were not the only machines out there. Others had watched the battle. Others had seen what the humans could do. The silence had been broken, and the universe was listening.